Music publicists won't tell you this, but before you drop thousands on PR, radio, Spotify promotions, playlist promotions, or even meta ads, you need to stop. There's a game-changing secret they don't want you to know about, and it could save you a fortune. Who am I? My name's Chris, also known as the Artist Manifest. I've been doing music now for over 20 plus years. I've got 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on PR. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on radio campaigns, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on meta ads. I've spent $500 a night to buy onto a tour, $100 a night. We spend $1,000 a night, and I'm talking about per show, right? And some of these decisions I would do again in a heartbeat, and other ones I wouldn't touch with an 11-foot pole, okay? And so I really want to give you advice on what moves the needle. What actually gets me streams? What actually gets me fans? On our Spotify 5-day challenge last month, an artist was really talking to me about PR and getting publicity for their song. And it really frustrated me because, I get PR. We used to do it for tours, where that's probably the only place I might allow you to spend money on, because at least if you're touring in the area and you get local PR, which could be radio, local magazines, maybe people could come to the shows. But is that really going to give you an ROI? Is that really going to build you a fan base? But really what frustrates me is all these online bloggers, or I want to get featured on this, and rank in SEO, and we're transparent, and we don't just email blast everybody, but yet we have relationships with specific bloggers, and we'll get you featured on this article and this article, but you got to give us $1,000 a month or thousands a month. And I said to this artist, I'm like, you know what really looks good on your resume as far as PR is hundreds of thousands of streams, millions of streams. Or what if you put that money into a collaboration, right? And you got this big artist to feature on it, or this big producer to produce the song, right? Now you have a story. Now you've tapped into their marketing. I also want to say that I spent hundreds of dollars on features, buying features, and I've also spent up to $5,000 on one feature, right? And that's some money that I would trade any day, because I'm literally immediately tapping into their fan base, as opposed to some random blog online. Or it's who's SEOing it? Why do I want to be search optimized if no one's even looking for me? And here's the other thing when it comes to any promotion. Are you ready? Do you have your foundation of songs even ready? Are you posting on social media regularly? Because it's I want you to blow me up with Spotify ads, Facebook ads, or publicity, or radio. And it's okay, we send you all this traffic and it's a ghost town. You don't have anything on social media. You don't have any photos on your Spotify page or Instagram or any of these stuff. Yet you want all of a sudden to have this fan base overnight, right? And so I want you to understand that first you got to optimize your stuff, right? That's what I say before we go and market and brand yourself, right? But you got to start somewhere. And I want to bounce onto this whole buying onto a tour, because that used to be the only way we could get our music in front of fans. And I used to grind it out on the road constantly. One of the big things I share on the Spotify 5-day challenge is I played 10 shows once, and we were in front of 100 or less people. And 100 times 10 is 1,000 people. So it took me about 10 shows. But of course, anyone that's toured, I didn't play all 10 shows right in a row. There's probably some days off. So it probably took me about 2 weeks plus to be in front of 1,000 people. And I was the headliner. All right. And so I'm probably playing an hour at least a night. We're having to set up. We're having to travel to all those places. But then I learned about, hey, man, why not buy onto someone's tour? Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you hit up their booking agent, their manager, or you hit up the artist themselves and you say, hey, do you guys need an opener? What we could rock it where we sound like you guys, or we're similar to yours. We think your fans would like us. And sometimes they might just say, hey, you can open for free, or we are looking for a local or someone to open, right? Or if you want to buy on and actually have that real legitimate slot and be on the tour poster and be on the whole tour, well, you got to pay this per night. Well, what's so rad is that we were charged $1,000 a night. And it was one of the best tours I ever did. I would do it in a heartbeat, take my money. Because that first show on tour, we were in front of over 2,000 people, okay? And so my merch sales were in the thousands. All of a sudden my iTunes sales, my Spotify streams, like everything just spiked. But what's so powerful about that is that I was in front of, what would that be? I was in front of, like, if it's every night, that's about like a 20x. I was in front of 20 people, 20 times more people in one night than it took me of the 10 shows, which was over 2 weeks. And what's even better is I performed less. I only did like a 20, 30-minute show. So not only did I not even play as long, I didn't work as hard, I didn't have to, travel as much, but I like to work smarter instead of harder. Drop in the comments below if you want to work smarter, not harder. And these are some of the leverage points that we want to do, where we want to spend good money, because not only did it was great marketing, but I made money back. I have fans still from that tour that say, I remember when I saw you opening up for that band. Now, I got to share the good and the bad, okay? Because there was another tour that we did. This is another good one, where we paid $500 a night for the show. And again, that one crushed it. We made thousands of dollars in merch a night. Really great show. Not all the shows were as big or as great, but they were awesome. Built the fan base. It was amazing. But what's really cool is after that tour was done, that same band months later was going on tour again. And then they asked us to play, but this time they paid me $500 a night, plus hotels and food. Okay, so I was willing to invest. I was willing to risk my money, and I got it back. Okay, now the horror story of one of the tours that I did, and I talk about some of these stories in my book, Fighter: 5 Keys to Conquering Fear and Reaching Your Dreams. Read it. It's the underdog story. It'll inspire you. Just don't read it before you go to bed. But we spent $1,000 a night on this other tour, and this was a really big band, but yet barely anybody was coming to the shows. And a couple of the shows, they actually had me play like right when doors opened. Okay, so I was literally playing barely to anybody. And it's like, look, man, come on. Like, I paid to be on this thing, and, I should be at least playing for some people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like really whack. And so we did some negotiations. But I want you to see what's really powerful about this is, like, you are guilty by association. Not only was I on the tour poster, I was on all the social media blasts, right? I could market to their fans. Like, that was a one-time payment, and now I had leverage for life, right? I had leverage for life about that, to say I opened for these guys or I toured with them, right? But what's even better than that, than buying onto a tour, is getting an artist to collaborate on the song. Okay, because it's cool to be in front of their fan base one time, but what about being in their fan base forever? And this is, again, what we talk about on the Spotify 5-Day Challenge, is when you have a primary artist feature, you show up on their Spotify profile. You'll show up on their Apple profile, YouTube, right? You get to tap into their network. And so I'm not just touring like, LA or the West Coast or the East Coast or whatever, or the Southeast, wherever the market is, right? Japan, UK. I'm not just touring one area once. I'm literally tapping into their global audience forever. And this is why, like, I'm so stoked that sometimes I've paid $500 for a feature, or even $5,000, because that song will recoup for life. Sure, I can recoup once on the tour, but now I've got this artist on. I can run meta ads to their fan base if they're big enough. I can run definitely Spotify ads, right? Directly target their fan base, right? And what's so cool about that, that's a story. Now you got something to talk about. That's on the resume. Look, I've worked with this artist. And sometimes when artists have hit me up, right, I check out their profile. Well, who have they worked with? Oh, they worked with this guy John or this guy Mike. Okay. Hey, John, Mike, what was it like working with them? What songs did they do? But like, it literally legitimizes. That's some good money spent. Well, what about radio promotion, Chris? Radio promotion is like the casino. And honestly, it still works. We still do it sometimes, but it is so risky. We have spent hundreds of dollars on smaller campaigns like college radio and whatnot, but it depends, how are you going to recoup that? Are you going to tour in those markets, right? If you're going to go for pop or rock radio, this one time, we spent $40,000 on a radio campaign at Active Rock. We got in the charts, but we barely moved any singles, any CDs. It did barely anything. And that's because they were all overnight spins. We played the radio game and we lost it. Where there was another time where we spent maybe tens of thousands of dollars, but because this one radio station, which was a Sirius XM station, it was Octane, that's in the active rock, and it got on like the hyperdrive or whatnot, and where it was in like heavy rotation. Because when a radio station adds your song, right, they either do a feature first, but then they put it into light, medium, heavy, and then there's like normally another cool name that they give it for where it's like, overdrive, or they're playing it even multiple times a day. Well, we got into that one where it was like hyperdrive, and the royalties that we saw from that from Sound Exchange were insane. Like totally dwarfed what it costs. It's like, okay, again, take my money. But again, it's because we got that one radio station where, again, you got to be careful. Like, not all radio stations are created equal. And this is a perfect segue to Spotify playlist promotion. Some of you, again, that attend my Spotify 5-day challenge, you're like, Chris, I did this Spotify promotions thing, and they said they were botted plays, and they said they were white glove, and they were legit, but they weren't. And, we got added to this playlist, we got all these streams, but then Spotify deleted them, and they actually took down the song, right? So you got to be very, very careful on what playlist you're getting on. Kind of like, it's like, okay, I'm getting on this radio, they're playing my song, but it's like, they're playing it when nobody's listening to it. Okay, they added me to a playlist. Where did they add you, right? Like, where did they add you on the playlist? You got added to a reggae playlist and you're a rock artist. You got added to a pop playlist and you're a classical artist. Like, how is that going to benefit from you? Even if you're getting streams, like, you want to get on a playlist that is not only getting streams that aren't botted, number one, but number two, like, what other artists in your genre are on there? Like, it should be congruent, right? Otherwise, it's like, I don't want fake botted streams. I don't want to just be on any playlist. Like, think about that. That's like me. I didn't buy onto a classical tour. I didn't buy onto a country artist tour. I bought onto a rock tour, right? Because I'm a rock artist, right? So I want to be on the right thing. Like, is that not a good example? Let me know in the comments if that's a good example when it comes to the playlist. It's just like, well, if you don't want to open for that genre of music, and that would be awkward and weird, well, what do you think it's like when fans are listening to the music and they're like, okay, I'm listening to this one artist and now I'm hearing this stuff. It's like, it's not fit. You know what it is? Skip. And it actually hurts you. Because it's like, if I'm expecting to hear a certain sound of music and then I'm getting this and they're just adding it for no reason. And so this is what leads me to the next thing, which I found very powerful. And again, I feel like we've never wasted any money on it. Like, sometimes, we have to invest a little bit to figure it out. But what I'm talking about is meta ads, okay? Facebook and Instagram ads to a Spotify playlist. Now, sometimes we don't know if the song's going to work. We don't know if we got the right video. We don't know if it's the right part of the video or the right part of the song. But what's so cool about meta ads is I get to test at least first. I get to start at $5 a day or $10 or even $15 a day. And I can see after a week, okay, is this working? 15, let's just say for math, 15 times 10, that's $150, okay? And I can see how many clicks I got. Did it spike up the streams? Did we get comments on the ad? Like, is it working? Oh, it's not working? Well, let's try something different. Maybe the copy is wrong. Maybe the video is wrong, right? And this is where I have to fix artists. Maybe the thumbnail is wrong, right? They're saying the wrong thing. And this is what I look at in my inner circle of my students that I work with to try and fix this. But at least you're not blowing all this money. Like, hey, I dropped thousands and it's like, oh crap, well, that was the wrong song. So we can pivot. I'm promoting my song Superman right now, and we've tried some ads. Some of them are working, some of them haven't, but it hasn't worked as well as this other song that I was promoting. And I talk about this in my new book coming out, Playlist Profits, where like this one song was just crushing it, and we just drove the streams to 2,000 streams. I haven't done that with this new song yet because maybe I don't got the right video yet, or maybe, I haven't spent enough, or it just might not be the right song. And I'm okay. It's a bit of an ego punch. Okay, the song is not good enough. Well, we move on, right? But the great news is that I can control it. I can pivot. I'm going to a playlist that I control that has got a whole bunch of songs of mine and maybe other artist songs if it's a genre-based playlist. And so I'm associating myself with the right artists, normally artists that are bigger than me that I might sound like Hello, Linkin Park, Breaking Benjamin, Starset, Limp Bizkit, whatever, insert Papa Roach, whatever you sound like, right? And so that I'm guilty by association here. But again, I can pivot, I can switch, and then I can scale, right? And again, like this is what you want. You want real streams. Like when I can say I've got 500,000 monthly listeners, that legitimizes me to you. You judge me on that, right? If I had 1 million, you might even have more respect. If I only had 100,000 or I only had 10,000 monthly listeners, you'd be like, But you know what? If you've got 10,000 monthly listeners or less, that's okay. You start where you start, but then you grow, okay? And you keep growing. And what I always teach my students is, okay, if you've got 10,000 monthly listeners, you want to be aiming to working with artists that have 15,000, 30,000, 40,000 monthly listeners, because now like you're in the game. But anybody watching this, you can easily get to 10,000 monthly listeners and up just with running meta ads, Facebook, Instagram ads. You can easily crush that with organic posting, okay? And we haven't really talked about that because that's like a free model here, and I talked about spending money, but like this is the thing. You're going to spend one of two things. You're either going to spend your time or you're going to spend your money, okay? And for a lot of people, you end up spending a little bit of both, right? But at least you can make the money back. With time, once it's gone, it's gone. And that's why we do offer coaching. We do offer the Spotify challenge and books and ebooks so that I can take my 10, 20 plus years of experience in this and cut yours into like you reading in 6 hours, you reading it, learning the lessons. And hopefully I helped you today to avoid some things or really think about things like, can this really move the needle? No. Can this? Yes. Right? And just know there's risk. There's risk in all of it. And what I was saying to artists the other day, some of my students, like, you never say like, hey, graphic designer, what's my ROI on the artwork, man? Hey, my wife who shot this and I had to pay her, or whoever, your photographer, what's my ROI on the photo? Or the producer or the mixer, what's my ROI? But we always want to know the ROI on my marketing. What's my ROI on the marketing? I want it like exactly, you know? Can you imagine like a label said that to you? What's my ROI going to be, kid? You know, if I sign you, what's my ROI going to be? Because they've already worked it out and they're willing for their wallets to go down before they go up. I think of it like a seed. And it's like the seed, when it gets planted in the darkness, right, it has to die. It has to be watered before it can transform into whatever it needs to become. And sometimes we got to be willing. We think we're buried, right? We think we're buried, but really we've been planted. And, you know, the Bible talks about seed time and harvest. You know, and a farmer goes out and he sows seeds and he waters it. And sometimes the thorns of doubt come in and discouragement and the haters. And it's like, is this really going to work? And that's where you need to push through that. And that's why you got to be careful who you share your dreams with. You know, Joseph shared his dream a little too early to his brothers. And what did they do? They threw him in a pit. You know, and that's what happens sometimes to us. We share our dreams with the haters or people that we want to encourage us, and they end up hating on our dream. You know, be careful who you share your dream with, because it only takes one negative idea or one negative comment to destroy a great idea. And I know you've got great ideas, but, you know, it's all about execution. And for some of you watching my videos and whatnot, you got to stop being addicted to education and allergic to execution. You've got to execute, you know? You haven't come to a Spotify challenge yet. You haven't invested in meta ads or any of these things. And maybe you did once and you got burnt because you didn't get burnt. It just didn't work, but maybe you didn't do it the right way, right? Some radio promoters suck, you know? Some, tours sucked that I bought onto, or some, producers weren't as good that I paid for and I thought I was going to get better, mixers, the whole thing. And you got to figure it out. But at least you want to do is get in the game, because you miss every shot that you don't take, right? So if we're looking at all these different things, when it comes to Spotify promotions, like, run your own ads, man. Get artists on the songs. If you're going to tour, buy onto the tour. Build the relationships, right? Hire the best producer. Do less songs. Do better songs. Because your best marketing is a musical masterpiece. All the marketing strategies that I share, and if you implement them, they only make a bad song fail faster. But when you've got a hit song, when you've got a freaking killer song, all of a sudden everything just gets easier. All of a sudden, people are commenting differently. They're sharing differently. They're adding it to playlists. The skip rate goes down, right? All of a sudden radio stations want to add it. Okay? Like, it's amazing actually to see, like, when you've got a hit song, like, that changed my life when I had a hit song. And that got addictive. I was like, okay, I wrote with that person produced it. I don't care what you cost, I'll pay you again. Because you see, broke artists know how much everything costs, But rich-minded artists see the value in things. You know, they don't care the cost. And they don't, instead of saying, you know, I can't afford that, they say, how can I afford that? Like, let me know in the comments, how many times have you bought in something that you couldn't afford, but you figured it out? I could not afford to make this album. Okay, I couldn't afford to make this album, but I figured it out. And, you know, it cost me less than $10,000, and it's made me hundreds of thousands. But at the time when I first made it, you know, it was a struggle and it was a risk. Okay, and so that's why I want you to be filled with faith instead of being filled with fear. 2 Timothy 1:7 says that I wasn't born with a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind. How many times did God say, you know, be strong and courageous? Be strong and courageous. I think it was in Joshua 1:8. Like, you got to take courage. You need courage and thick skin in this music game. I get it, because I sometimes I'm in here and I feel good, and sometimes I doubt myself, you know, and so I got to remind myself. I got to pump myself up, but I don't want to just be pumped up, you know, and like, sure, you know, motivation can be contagious to an extent, and you can get like motivated, but at the end of the day, you gotta take action. So I hope this has helped you. I'll put links below to the Spotify challenge. We got our new playlist, Prophets. I think it's like a pre-order right now. You can get an early copy of it, but that's a game changer. And again, just take action on this dream. And I want to remind you that a fighter isn't someone who never fails. A fighter is someone who never quits.